Thank you to Billy Kills for his constant support on Patreon. Aegar the Freezing Flame versus Varina Lich Queen, Jired Conclave Exile, and Esika God of the Tree. That isn't the best hand, but we can play it out slowly and not be a threat for the beginning of the game. We're also last in the turn order, so yeah, let's just keep it. And the first spell of the game is a Gravecrawler coming from the zombie player. Noteworthy that Hallowed Fountain has been shot down over here, so maybe an Enlightened or a Mystical Tutor will be cast at the end of our turn. And we get into a Snow Island, so let's just get down the tapped Snow Jewel. And there it is, Enlightened Tutor from Esika, being piloted by Billy Kills. And that takes him into Mana Crypt, which is then into a turn 2 Rhystic Study. So no chances of us being seen as the threat early on, I don't think. Serum Visions being cast by the zombie player, and deciding to give Kills a card with that. Anyway, let's get down the training centre before we lose players. And we'll try and have our opponents play around counter magic. Dodging the Mana Crypt, but shocking down the Temple Garden. And that is into Sylvan Library, so yeah, definitely Kills to win here. We're not going to see this, are we? Thassa's Oracle. Tap this down for white mana and then untapped. Okay, Demonic Consultation. Yep, so we've got another one of these players. Let's highlight the username here. This is not a EDH game, but I am going to highlight this player here because this is a person that you might want to put on your Magic Online ban list. If they're going to take EDH combos into non-EDH games, then I am going to highlight that so that all of you can avoid players like this. He's actually done it wrong anyway. The Thassa's Oracle, he should let the Thassa's Oracle hit play first with its trigger on the stack, and then go for Demonic Consultation, because someone might be able to counter the Thassa's Oracle here. But none of us had anything anyway, so the Thassa's Oracle combo still wins. Yeah, not much more to say about that. Let's get on with the next one. Okay, we don't have any Sadacs this time, thankfully. Aegar the Freezing Flame versus Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator and Breach's Brazen Plunderer, Jired Conclave Exile, and Esika God of the Tree. That's a one-lander, although we have Wheel of Fortune. We're second in the turn order, so we've got a couple of draws to make a land. Could make something work if our opponents get rocks down, Dockside Extortionist into Chromatic Lantern, maybe a wheel, but no, I'd rather just use the free mulligan there, I think. There's no guarantee we'll get into lands off the top, and that's not much better to be honest, but we've got lands at least. And we draw into a Skred, so we want to get as many snow permanents into play as possible, so let's get the tap land out of the way, and that is a Snow Jewel. Everyone just getting out tap lands on turn 2. I don't think we're going to do much different. Yeah, Blasphemous Act. Let's go for the Shivan Reef. If someone goes for some kind of ramp spell, which I don't think we're going to see, but if someone goes for some kind of ramp spell, I might actually go Narset's Reversal onto it. Well, there's a Soul Ring, so that could go into a Cultivate. Instead, it is Valky, God of Lies. This is a God Tribal list from Billy Kills, by the way. So, Valky, one of the new ones. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand, and for each opponent, exile a creature until this leaves play, and then for X, where X is its CMC, it becomes a copy of it. So we could get rid of that with Skred if we want to. So, taken away from us, the Crystalline Giant, which I think I'm going to bolt this thing just because that's our turn 3 play. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Goblin Sharpshooter. We'll see if they get the Kodama's Reach first of all. And we can still see Drone of War's hand for some reason. We'll just put that there. Well, we do at least know that the Kodama's Reach is incoming, probably next turn, so maybe we just hold up Narset's Reversal for that. And then it is further over there, so let's go for the Skred onto the Valky. And we get a Fiery Confluence, so yeah, I think we're just holding up the Narset's Reversal still so that we can continue to make land drops, assuming that they go for that here. Hopefully they do, because I'll regret not starting to pile on counters onto this if they don't play it. Ronas the Indomitable coming down for kills. And then a Sylvan Scrying. And with the Sylvan Scrying they went for the World Tree, so I'll be very intrigued to see how the World Tree pans out here. I was actually thinking of making a God Tribal list myself with Esika, so you'll have to let me know if you want to actually see that or not. Leave a comment down below if you want me to make a God Tribal list with Esika. Alright, and there is the Kodama's Reach. I'm not particularly interested in setting Jired back, but I do want to copy that. So we'll go for the Kodama's Reach, because I don't think we're going to be drawing into a land next turn. Let's go for an island and a mountain. Wait a minute, did we know about Muldrifter before? I don't remember seeing Muldrifter. This says that it's Drone of War's hand, which is different than the reveal zone. Yeah, this is actually showing us Drone of War's hand here, so yeah, we're actually cheating here. Turns out that the Val key must be bugged then. I did notice this before, that when Billy Kills played his God Tribal list before, the person in this position had their hand revealed, but I never really looked through it. I just assumed that it was the revealed zone in a separate window, but we're actually seeing Drone of War's hand here, so I'll have to, I don't know, I can't take it off the screen. Yeah, let's do that and just not look at it. Alright, so I'm putting it in the bottom of the screen here so I can look at this part of the screen, and you'll just have to trust me that I'm not looking at what is in his hand. But yeah, I know that that's from Valky. That's a bug there, because that happened when Billy Kills played that previously as well, and it was in the exact same position on the board that it happened as well. So if you're wanting to play Valky, that's something to be wary of on Magic Online. Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator for the Pirate player. And it does have haste, so they'll be able to make a treasure token. And that goes in towards Jired, because he is at the highest life total, I'm guessing. And then it's round to our turn. A couple of mana being held up over here. We get a Chaos Warp, so didn't draw into that land. We'll drop the mountain, and I think we're just going for Crystalline Giant. Not getting into any of our ramp, unfortunately. And we'll get a counter at random here, one of the keyword counters, and ended up, that's one of the better ones, ended up with Hexproof out of all that. I think you need a total of like 10 combats or something like that to get all the counters on this thing. But yeah, like I said, Hexproof is one of the better ones. Now the World Tree comes into play for kills, and Esika coming into play as well. And trying the Kodama's Reach with Jired again. Even if I had a means of messing with them with the Kodama's Reach, I wouldn't do it here. Literally just did it for my own gain previously. And Drone going straight over to combat. Swinging over to the God player this time. And there is the Muldrifter tapping down red mana over here. I'm guessing that's just to pass priority quickly. So Muldrifter coming into play, and it will stay in play because 5 mana has been paid for that. So back up to 7 cards in hand. And they've played the Mystic Sanctuary in tapped, so we know about that. Okay, and Mizium Mortars. We could deal 4 damage to... Yeah, do we want to overload that? We could do that next turn. Yeah, so let's work under the assumption that we can overload this next turn if we get into a land, and we'll just go for the Aegar. We end up getting Menace, so getting some really good counters on that. Let's swing in towards Drone. I know there's a lot of pirate combos that you can go for in these decks, so we'll just try and deal some damage to him. A Maelstrom Nexus comes out over here. The first spell that they cast each turn has Cascade. Might have to put a Chaos Warp on that. Jired Conclave Exile. And Spear Spewer coming down now, so with the Goblin Sharpshooter and the Spear Spewer, maybe this is some kind of burn deck. I'm guessing it's not Pirate Tribal from Malcolm and Breaches. Now, Artificial Evolution. Change the text of a target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one creature type with another. Okay, so turning this thing into a Goblin Pirate, I'm guessing. It hasn't come up if they chose Pirate there. Yeah, chose Pirate for Artificial Evolution, so I'm guessing this is a Pirate even though it doesn't say so. Anyway, if this has worked, it will go very nicely in tandem with Malcolm, because it will do 1 damage to each player, and whenever it deals damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token. So basically tap this, deal 1 damage to everyone and get 3 treasures, assuming that you've got 3 opponents. Now a Trickery Charm. Target creature becomes creature of the chosen type. Alright, they've already done that with this. So I'm guessing this didn't work. Alright, that one worked, because this is a pirate now. So I'm guessing that this is bugged, or maybe Drone didn't click it correctly. It's one of the traits on Magic Online that we all love, having to click everything exactly in the correct order. Anyway, Trickery Charm, turning that into a pirate. And now Malcolm is coming in at us, making its way around the entire table. And then tapping this down, so a damage to all of us, and the treasures will be created there. And that is Goblin Sharpshooter, which we knew about, so only 2 spells in hand that we don't know about now. In Wings of Velisvel and Mystic Retrieval. Now hoping for a land here. And there we go, that's really good. So I think we just go into a Mizium Mortars to try and slow people down. We'll also draw some cards with that. Dealing 1 damage to us with the Sharpshooter instead of doing it to the Jired. The Goblin Sharpshooter isn't a pirate, so it didn't get them any treasures there. We draw 4 cards from the Aegar. The Goblin Sharpshooter can untap in the graveyard if it wants to. Alright, getting into some more lands is really good. We're going to have to discard a couple at the end of the turn. Let's swing in. And now we've got reach on that thing. And we'll deal 3 to Mango with our commander. And we'll deal some to Billy Kills as well. And then what to get rid of here? I think we can get rid of Chandra's Ignition because we've got pretty much all of our other big burn spells in hand. Blasphemous Act. Fiery Confluence I'll keep just because it can get rid of artifacts as well. And then let's just get rid of a mountain as well, because we'll be playing the Scrying Sheets next turn, I think. Now the commander coming down as the Prismatic Bridge. And that cascades into Paradox Haze, so they'll be able to reveal even more stuff off the top and get it straight onto the battlefield. Sundering Growth going on to the Esika, so that is going to be 6 extra to get out of the command zone now. Already been destroyed a few times, luckily they didn't have a token to populate there. Going for Fires of Yavimaya, creatures you control have haste. Okay, going for Echo of Eons over there, they have paid the full 6 for that, so I'm not in love with our hand anyway, so I'm actually not against that. Get into some lands, still not getting into any ramp though. We've got plenty of ramp in the deck and can't seem to draw into it for some reason. So now we've got Crush Underfoot, which has a giant, deal damage equal to its power to a creature. Get back the Chandra's Ignition, and we've got Frostbite as well, which will be a Lightning Bolt because we've got a bunch of snow permanents. Ghostly Pilferer coming into play with haste. That is a 2-1 that can become unblockable. And that swings in towards Mango, who is the Naya player over here. Although it hasn't been made unblockable yet, so yeah, the Jired can just block it. I don't think there's anything he can do once it's been blocked. Unless there's some kind of combat trick. Yeah, maybe he assumed that it had flying because it's a spirit. But you do need to discard a card in order to make it unblockable. And then it's just another land for us. I don't think we can really do much of anything. This time with the Crystalline Giant we are going to get, that is a +1/+1 counter, so jumping up to a 4/4. Attacking straight down the middle with the Menace creature, and then the commander going into the left at Billy Kills. They still can't block with their god. Yeah, so getting into plenty of spells, but not getting into any of the giants or ramp, which is the two main things we need, really. Kruphix, God of Horizons, being cast, and that cascades into a Vampiric Tutor. Then the Naya player at the end of Billy Kill's turn, going for Sheltered Thicket, being cycled. Still at 7 cards in hand, about to draw his 8th. Oh, Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. I think that might have to eat a Crush Underfoot. I mean, it's not a Yisan deck, so maybe it's not all that worth worrying about, but yeah, it's still Yisan at the end of the day. Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator coming into play again. And then Lightning Rig Crew. 1 damage to each opponent. And whenever you cast a pirate spell, untap the Lightning Crew. That is going to have haste, so I think we go for Frostbite onto the Malcolm. That will draw us a card, and it will keep them from getting treasure tokens when they tap down the Lightning Rig Crew. We dealt excess damage there because it's a lightning bolt, which is why we draw the card with the Aegar. And just another land, unfortunately. So then we'll take it back round to our turn and hope to draw into something that isn't a land, but of course it is a land. So getting flooded here. So I think we have to go for Myriad Landscape in that instance. Alright, let's go through to combat first and we'll see what happens with this Crystalline Giant. That ends up with Death Touch now, so they might not want to block it even if they can. Let's attack. Just go through with the Crystalline Giant into Mango. I don't trust that Billy Kills can't do anything, especially if he can cascade into a creature, so yeah, the chances of him cascading into a big enough creature for this to block aren't all that high, I don't think, but I'm still not going to go in with the Aegar. Let's just go straight down the middle. And not wanting to lose either of his creatures, he lets that through. Let's drop the Myriad Landscape. And just in case we get into a big creature, let's go for Crush Underfoot onto the Yisan. And they're going for something in response there, so let's see if they can protect the Yisan in any way. We might open up Billy Kills to get rid of it. I suppose we could always go for Chandra's Ignition if we're desperate. Alright, getting down Reese the Redeemed, so not all that much to worry about. The Aegar will draw us a card because this is what dealt the damage. It would have dealt excess damage anyway because it's got more power, but it also has Death Touch, so we only have to deal 1 point of lethal damage, and then the rest would have been excess anyway. So even if it was a 2-2 on a 10-10, we still would have gotten the card there, and clearing another land off the top. I don't like losing a game just because we get flooded. Alright, we'll pass at that. Billy Kills at the end of the turn, tapping down his mana, and thought he might be going for a spell to cascade there, but just making use of Kruphix. So just throwing down the Prismatic Bridge again. And this time cascading into Thoracle, God of Affliction. I always wanted this god to be good, but I'm not entirely sure that it is. Anyway, that animates both the Kruphix and Thoracle. So some indestructible gods starting to hit the battlefield. And there's Sterling Grove, just to make it even more difficult to remove these things. We are in an Izzet deck, so we're not going to be removing enchantments anyway. Then following things up with a Nature's Law. Now a Heat Shimmer from the token player. Create a token copy of a creature except it has haste, and you exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So just doing that to get their Rhino into play. I dare say they'll keep the original copy. Yeah, keeping the original copy, they would have had to exile the token anyway. And then a Sylvan Library as well. And swinging in at us with both of the creatures. I really don't want to wipe the board because I think we all need to be concentrating on the God player at this point, but if I'm scared of the Naya player dealing 10 damage to us every turn and more, then I think we're going to have to wipe the board, unfortunately. Let's block the Jired. It'd be great if we could get lifelink onto the Crystalline Giant and then point a Chandra's Ignition at it. We would gain a lot of life, assuming that there were a lot of creatures left in play. As it stands now, we can kill off anything with Chandra's Ignition, and this because it has Death Touch. Apart from the gods, that is, which is a big deal at the moment. Sakashima, the Imposter, from the other Izzet player. And then following things up with a Ponder, they made Sakashima a copy of the Crucifix. And then going through to the end of the turn, 4 cards in hand, 5 mana held up. Let's try not to draw into a land. Alright, Rhystic Study. I will make do with a Rhystic Study, so if we go 3, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the Chandra's Ignition. We'll end up losing our commander here, unfortunately. So let's go through to combat first and see what counter we get with the Crystalline Giant. And there we go. End up with lifelink, so I think if the gods are going to start swinging in at us, if the Naya player is going to be swinging in at us, I think we have to go... Yeah, I think we have to go with Chandra's Ignition. So let's just not swing in at anyone here. We could try and gain 4 more life by going in down the middle, but I'd like to leave Mango alone now in an attempt to get him to leave me alone. Although the board wipe might suggest otherwise. So in that case, let's just throw down another mountain. Try and get some counter magic out of our opponent's hand with a Rhystic Study. And that lands, so I will assume that we can go for this. The Crystalline Giant dealing damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent, which is 4 life per creature it deals damage to. Alright, Swords to Plowshares going onto that instead. So we won't draw the cards, unfortunately. We'll still gain a bunch of life, though. It's unfortunate, really, because Mango, you'd rather he save the exile effect for the gods that are coming into play, but he doesn't know that we just have a full grip of lands. Yeah, I'd probably tell him that if we were in a paper game. Anyway, +2/+2, trying to save a token, that won't work because this has Death Touch. So losing the Fires of Yavimaya for no reason there. And there we go, wiping the board, going up to 72 life. And again, passing through the turn, hoping that we can manage to get ourselves into something that isn't a land. Prismatic Bridge, finally, managing to trigger with the Paradox Haze in play. So they'll get a couple of permanents here. I don't know if these cast, do they? You just put the card onto the battlefield, so you don't cast and get to Cascade with the Maelstrom Pulse. First thing they get themselves into is Thassa Deep Dwelling. So surely it's going to be Billy Kills that wins at this point. Prismatic Bridge triggering again during the second main. And what was that? I think it was the Athreos, God of Passage. Now Sterling Grove during the upkeep being sacrificed so that they can put an enchantment on top of their library. Maybe something like a True Conviction would be good to go for. They do have to reveal it, so let's have a look. They went for a mana doubler in Mirari's Wake. And playing that into the Rhystic Study. And deciding to pay for that, so effectively taking 2 mana away from them there. And I think they cascaded into 3 visits there. It's in the reveal zone. I'm not sure that they actually cast that. Anyway, mana drain coming from the pirate player onto the Mirari's Wake and paying for the Rhystic Study. Still looking forward to this Echo of Eons. It might be that he goes for that anyway because he's worried about the number of cards in our hand. But yeah, hoping to see an Echo of Eons at this point. I think we all need to be looking in the direction of the God player. Then Sylvan Scrying, search for a land. They cast that previously for the World Tree, but it got shuffled back into the library. And they searched for Hall of Heliod's Generosity, probably so they can grab the Mirari's Wake back. And then all the gods coming in at us, as I assumed they would. I think they would have come in at us even if we didn't gain a lot of life there, which is why I felt the need to go for Chandra's Ignition. I think this game I've pretty much enabled the God player to go off here because I was trying to control the other 2 player while we didn't really have any cards in hand. Anyway, Thassa Deep Dwelling, now we'll be able to flicker something. And deciding to flicker the 5/5 with Death Touch. Now let's see if Mango can do anything. The Sylvan Library is on the stack, and I'm just noticing that Jired is in the graveyard. That's what the trick is. God Pharaoh's Gift. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you can exile a creature. And if you do, create a token copy of it that's a 4/4 black zombie with haste. So looking to get some action from Jired, turning it into a 4/4. Good way to cheat the command attacks on that. Then going for V2 Ghazi, and they gave us the card draw on both of those, and wouldn't you know, one of them was a land. Did get a Frost Titan at least, which could be useful against these gods. Anyway, at the beginning of combat, going for the Jired as you would expect, and continuing to come in at us. Might as well, I suppose, if he can't get through to the gods. And Jired will be able to make a copy of itself here, and it does. But as ever, they can only keep one copy, but still getting themselves into another Rhino token. We'll just take the hit for 4 here, because we don't have any first strike yet. Anyhow, Drone is going to get 5 additional colourless mana here, and then he had 2 from the Crucifix as well. Breach's Brazen Plunderer, and paying the tax on that. Noteworthy that they've got a Castle Vantress in play now as well. And the 3/3 comes in at us as well. That has Menace, so we can't block it. And exiling a card off the top of our library, we would have drawn into a Blind Spot Giant. Can't attack or block unless you control another giant. I think that would have been fairly useless anyway. And then that is the end of the pirate player's turn, deciding not to go for the Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator, so I do wonder what's in their hand. Only 3 cards left in hand over there. Watch us draw into a land. Yep, there you go. I mean, what are we supposed to do if we can't draw into anything apart from lands? We've got 6 mana there, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 can't get into our commander, so we might as well crack the Myriad Landscape here, I think. Let's go. Actually, we'll see what counters we get. I don't think it's going to change anything, but we'll go through to combat. And we've got flying now, so yeah, maybe we can start chipping away at Billy Kills. Does he have reach on anything? I don't think so. Yeah, so I think we need to start chipping away at kills here. This now has Death Touch, Menace, Flying, Hexproof, Lifelink and Reach. It is a 4/4. Obviously it would be nice to have the Vigilance. Maybe it's just an achievement unlock game at this point to see if we can get all the counters on this thing. Alright, and that hits, so let's attempt a Frost Titan. And as much as I would love to tap down one of their gods so they can't hit us, I think we're just going to have to tap down the World Tree at this point, because they can go for that next turn. Tapping it down for mana in response, they might as well. They'll get to keep the mana from Crucifix. So we'll play a land, go for Myriad Landscape. I did end up telling my opponents that I've just got a fistful of lands, but we'll tap out anyway just to prove the point. And then we'll throw down a tapped Shock Land as well, and that will be our turn done. Then Kills, tapping out again, so I'm assuming that that is just for the sake of Crucifix, and it is. So it's the same trick again, going for the first upkeep with Prismatic Bridge. Now that is Iroas, God of Victory. And there is Alrund, God of the Cosmos. All of the creatures have Menace now as well, not that we have many creatures to block with. Was hoping to be able to chump at least some of this damage that's probably coming in towards us though. Hall of Heliod's Generosity has come down and it is being activated. And I think that went on to the mana doubler. And then going for Kodama's Reach. Need to be careful with that because... oh, no, it went on to the Sterling Grove. So Kodama's Reach will cascade into the Sterling Grove. And they're paying the tax on all of this. So that will give all of their Enchantment Shroud. And they can go for a tutor with that if they want to as well. They got a Forest into play with the Kodama's Reach and a Swamp into hand. I think, unless I've lost track of what they've got in hand there, I think they've got Temple of the False God in hand as well. So I think we only know of one mystery card there. Alright, yeah, all of this coming in at us. I'm just going to take it at this point. I don't think there's any shame in losing this one when we're just drawing into lands. And we go down to a more reasonable 33. And at the end step, Alrund will trigger. Choose a card type and reveal the top 2 cards, and you get all the cards of the revealed type into hand. Thassa will flicker something as well, probably the Ronas again. Revealing Ifara and cascading Cataracts, so I'm not sure what he named there, I don't think it tells us anywhere. Oh yeah, it says up here. He chose Creature for the triggered ability, So Cascading Cataracts isn't in hand, but Ifara is. Sylvan Library triggering again for Jired. Jired going straight through to combat and exiling something with the Pharaoh. They have gone for a copy of Rhys the Redeemed, which can tap down and make a bunch of tokens. Looks like Kills is looking to do something here. It is tapping a creature, so looking to tap the Jired so that it can't populate. They'll be able to do that with our Frost Titan as well. A Rishkar's Expertise, so he will be able to draw 4 cards there and get a free spell. Not the biggest Rishkar's Expertise, but still pretty good for 6 mana. Allowing us to draw a Jaya's Immolating Inferno. I don't think we can dump 18 into X on that, unfortunately. Might be able to dump 14 into it, or something close to it, though. And then populating. Yeah, Jared missing out on his combat step there might actually affect the outcome of this game. I would have described to Mango that we can get rid of him if he can deal any damage to the God player whatsoever. This assumes that there's no counter magic though. Also assumes that the pirate player isn't going to do anything. Starting to tap down mana, just going for the Castle Vantress. Just letting them know that any damage to Kills would be useful to us there because we might be able to do something. Pretty much the only out that the Izzet player has is either bouncing all the creatures or, I don't know, flying over and dealing some damage with Malcolm, something like that. I don't know how well they can buff Malcolm. Maybe getting down some pingers as well. Problem is, we need to get our commander into play before this will do anything, don't we? Yeah. I mean, we can draw some cards with it at least. I don't think we're taking Kills out with this next turn though. Depends on what Drone can do here. Yeah, Drone was looking to wheel there with the Echo of Eons. It's probably best that he just does that. I've just told him that we've got Jaya's Inferno in hand. Because like I said, we'd have to put 5 mana into our commander and then it would only be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 into X. We could draw some cards, but it's probably best that he just goes for the wheel. So that the 3 of us can try and get into something. Anyway, Clever Impersonator coming into play. And that is Athreos, God of Passage. Okay, and Mango just deciding to scoop. Yeah. Alright. So it's down to a 3-player game apparently. And then Echo of Eons goes on the stack. Swords to Plowshares, I think Kills had 4 mana up there. Yeah, Swords to Plowshares comes from Billy Kills. So that is onto the Frost Titan so that he can try and untap the World Tree, I'm guessing. He's going to have to put 2 additional mana into that. Swords to Plowshares might cascade him into something. Mana Crypt or something like that. Yeah, cascading into Mana Crypt by the looks of it. Don't think he cast it though, probably wary of the lightning bolts from this. And then Kills, allowing us to have a card because it's all going to get shuffled away anyway. He just needs to hope that we don't get into free counter magic, which we didn't. So we gain some more life, go up to 39. And guess what? Draw into another land with the Heuristic Study over here. So let's hope for some better luck now. There we go, straight into no lands. Alright, we've got to stop on the upkeep for Mystical Tutor. Museum Mortars won't necessarily do anything. Yeah, drawn into everything in the wrong order this game, unfortunately. Maybe we can do something with Mystical Tutor though. Yeah, I think we're still looking for the Jaya's Immolating Inferno, but I'm not going to go for it now. I'm going to do a bit of setting up for doing it on next turn. Alright, there is Invasion of the Giants. Finally getting into some giant stuff on turn 11. Let's go for the Sol Ring. And I think it's just a case of getting blockers into play at this point. Drop our commander. We'll go for Ravenous Giant just for the sake of getting a blocker into play. And then we'll throw down the Chromatic Lantern as well, I think. Yeah, let's just get that into play. And then maybe we can go for Jaya's Immolating Inferno. Let's see which counter we get here. Vigilance would be nice so that we can gain a bit more life. No, it is Trample this time. So at the moment we're missing First Strike and Vigilance. I think we're only a couple of combats away from getting the full house on this. So just holding back blockers, I think, just in case we're desperate. And we'll rely on the Mystical Tutor as best we can. Let's see which gods come into play this time. Hoping to not see any haste at this point. That is Ilhag the Raiseboar. Again, luckily without any haste. And Nylea as well. Okay, so all of their creatures have trample now. They can be buffed for only 3 mana by the Ronas. So yeah, might be that we get taken down here or close to it. Still 7 cards in Kills' hand. And now it's the World Tree being activated for Wooburg twice. Search your library for any number of god cards, put them onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. I don't know if there's any gods that give all of your stuff haste. We need them to not have haste on all their stuff, and we need them to not get hexproof on themselves as well. Of course, there is Xenagos, will give haste to something. Double its power and toughness and give it haste. Don't think they have mass haste though. Anyway, let's see which gods they've got access to. They have Ilhag and Nylea, we've already seen. They have the OG Heliod, Mogis, Xenagos, Karametra, the Aphara we already saw, Erebos, and the other Erebos as well. Phoenix, the Valky, which is on the stack at the moment, and then Keranos, God Eternal Oketra, my favourite, Kalvori, God of Kinship, the Locust God, which is a flyer which might be relevant, and then the Scarab God as well. Anyway, Valky is going to allow kills to look at our hand, and he'll get access to Borderland Behemoth. Taking the Behemoth away from us, that was his only choice, and an Amoeboid Changeling. So I'm guessing that there wasn't any decent creatures in Drone's hand either. Now, time to see if he can take us out. Alright, a Nylea coming down as well. If he gives the Ilhag the Raiseboar haste as well, then that will be able to cheat something into play also. Anyway, casting the Nylea will get a Cascade, a 4/4 zombie from the God Eternal Oketra, and a Forest or Plain straight into play from the Karametra. They cascaded into Dryad of the Elysian Grove with Nylea. Don't think they're casting the cards that they are cascading into, so not sure what the idea is there, but anyway, going for some mill. They might be able to just mill a player out here if they're not going for the attacks. Going for the mill with Pyreka onto the Izzet player. So glad we haven't gone for the Mystical Tutor yet. If they just leave one creature untapped that can mill, then we're not going to be able to do anything to get the Jaya's Immolating Inferno into hand. Xenagos triggers at the beginning of combat, and it targets the 7/7 with Menace, Trample and Vigilance, which will turn it into a 14/14. I think that's been in for a while, so they haven't given haste to anything here, which is noteworthy. See if they can take one of us or both of us out here. Going for the other Izzet player. And I don't think... Yeah, I think all of their stuff has Summoning Sickness here, so I don't think they're going to be able to mill us once we go for the Mystical Tutor. They do know about all the cards in our hand, thanks to... Oh god, where is it? The Valky, because we had to reveal our entire hand to that. Anyway, we've got a 5/5 with Death Touch coming in towards us. We've got the 14/14 as well. And then the 7/4 in at Drone, the 5/4 in at Drone, a 6/5 in at Drone, and the 4/7 as well. So that's 19 points of damage onto us. I think if he's tapped out, there's no means of him untapping stuff, is there? I don't think there's any means of him untapping his lands, so... Yeah, if he's tapped out, I think we just take the damage here. We could double block with the Lifelinker and the Ravenous Giant. Yeah, so that takes out Drone exactly, and because all of his stuff has Vigilance, he can just mill us with the Mystical Tutor, so I don't really see if there's much of anything we can do here. We might just draw into it with some random luck. Yeah, starting to mill us here, so I don't know, maybe. If he can't mill us entirely, we might still have the X spell in our library by the time he's done milling. He does know about the Mystical Tutor in our hand thanks to the Valky. Alright, milling us out with all of his creatures. So he can't... This is... Yeah. You can't tap any creatures down that have Summoning Sickness, so... Alright, let's have a look through the bin, see if he's gotten rid of the X spell. No, doesn't look like he has. So in that case, I think it's just a case of dodging free counter magic. Oh, he can untap a creature as well, can't he? Untapping the Odin, Alrund, God of the Cosmos. Hopefully he'll tap down and mill us here. He revealed Sphinx of the Second Sun and the Godless Shrine with the God, and I'm assuming he named creature. Oh no, he chose sorcery with that, so I didn't get any of those cards. Oh, but it comes back in with Summoning Sickness, doesn't it? Yeah, because it hasn't been in place since the upkeep. Alright, so we still get the Mystical Tutor. Yeah, I thought that would come in without Summoning Sickness for some reason. Yep, so definitely there's nothing that has haste or no Summoning Sickness on it, so let's go for the Mystical Tutor. Haven't even counted what X could be for Jaya's Immolating Inferno, but we'll go for that anyway. And then Quakebringer is in the bin. So it deals 2 damage to each opponent. It only triggers when it's on the battlefield or if it's in the graveyard and we control a giant, so that will help us. They will deal 2 damage to us with the Mogis, which we don't really care about. They draw a card with Ifara, which gets them into an insect. So they could block with the Flying Insect and their Locust God. I don't think they've got any other flyers. Then the Ravenous Giant deals a damage to us. Quakebringer is 2 damage to our opponent. So now I just need to look around the whole board and see if they've got anything with reach or flying. They've got 2 flyers. I might have to shoot the insect so that we can get through with the Crystalline Giant. Alright, looking through this, it's a hell of a lot of text to look through, so hopefully I haven't missed some tiny little word somewhere that has reach written on it. I don't think they have any reach, so yeah, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's try. Go for Mizium Mortars onto the insect, and that will draw us a card as well. They can pay 2 life here to draw a card as far as I'm concerned, and they do that, and that gets them into another insect. Although, we've got Death Touch on this, haven't we? So maybe we can deal 1 damage to Locust God, 1 damage to the insect, and trample the other 2 damage through. I think that works. It won't kill the Locust God. Oh yeah, it will, because it's not indestructible. Alright, we might still be able to do it then. Alright, a Mana Drain. Wouldn't have been unhappy to see a land there, because we might just be a point or 2 of damage away from doing something here. Alright, well, let's try. Go through to combat. Get a counter on the giant. And this time it is the first strike, which helps with the Death Touch. So we're actually not going to lose the Crystalline Giant with Death Touch and first strike. Swing that in. And they have to block with 2 creatures. So we deal 1 damage to each of the creatures, 2 damage to our opponent. If we wanted to draw some additional cards here, we could deal the excess damage to each of these creatures. I don't think that's going to matter here. So we just get 2 points of damage through to Billy Kills. See if he wants to draw some more with the Erebos. He doesn't draw any cards with the Erebos, very wisely. Yeah, so I think we still don't have enough, do we? Yeah, we still only deal 10 points of damage to them, unfortunately. Alright, so I think we just have to try and draw some cards and get ourselves into a lightning bolt or something. So we'll deal damage to our opponent. And then deal excess damage to a couple of creatures. It can be those 2. So if we put 9 into X, it'll be knocking our opponent down to 3, and maybe we get into a lightning bolt or something. So knocking them down to 3, we've got our commander on the stack. We get our Borderland Behemoth back, which is irrelevant. And then it's the moment of truth. A Swiftfoot Boots, and last chance. That is a Stink Drinker Daredevil. So, haven't done it unfortunately. Oh, actually, didn't actually look through the graveyard. Yeah, Lightning Bolt is there. And the Frostbite is there, so that's anticlimactic, isn't it? Could have just looked in the graveyard. I don't think there's anything we could have done there. This has just been a really rough game for us. But it was cool to see the God Tribal list. I was going to ask you if you all wanted to see me play a variant of God Tribal from Esika, but I think we've already seen as much as anyone would want to see from a God Tribal list and the Prismatic Bridge. So it's just been unfortunate for us. I think we were completely flooded in the mid-game when we wanted to be drawing into maybe a little bit more ramp and some giants. But I think the way to build a powerful version of Aegar is to go for, it's probably cheap wizards and Spellslinger. Giants aren't particularly good, and we've been outmatched here, I think. So I think if you want to build Aegar yourself, maybe go for Spellslinger Burn and wizards maybe. I think wizards are better than giants, especially in recent sets. Okay, so hopefully, after all the triggers are done, Kills can just turn everything in sideways here. He's gotten himself into his Enchantress stuff, so maybe he's drawing into everything in the wrong order as well. Eidolon of Blossoms, and the Citizen Champion finally going onto the battlefield. This is a 32-32 with Haste, Menace, Trample and Vigilance, by the way. And there we go, Kills taking us down to -17, so yeah, don't think there's any shame in losing that one. It was just really unlucky, I think. Be sure to let me know if you want to see more from Aegar again, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm Tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.